something similar. And through research and contacting these people and partnerships with them and being able to work with local farming initiatives and organizations, we started building out our agrivoltaic side of things. And so now we do not build any solar farms that do not have a agrivoltaic or an agricultural element to it, because the agriculture is extremely important, and it doesn't make sense for us to go and build a solar farm and kill essentially the arable land underneath it. And so I built this strategy within the Doomsday community, and really focused on pushing that narrative. And this is something that no other, at least from what I understand and what I see, no other fund or syndicator or organization is really going after. I've seen a few people who are involved in the solar space, very few, out of every 100, you might find one or two, but there's not really anybody who is as advanced as we are with our thinking, with our tech stack, with our strategy, and how we're kind of moving things forward. So when it comes to that, we are in a very unique spot. And so that's really what agrivoltaics is. Sometimes we grow hemp underneath our solar, which we then burn to then produce graphene, synthetic graphene, in order for us to then use that, or we sell it to battery manufacturers, or we use it in different applications. We can also take the hemp and then go and make concrete out of it. There's many different things that we can do. You can grow wheat underneath the panels. You can grow crops that are like leafy vegetables, earthy vegetables. You can graze cattle underneath them. There are so many different applications that you can do. It's not just crop on one side. One of my favorites, and actually the one that I love the most, is what we call.
Okay, great. So, and Nisar, I was, apart from you, from the name of the company itself, I'm of course impressed by what you do, and more than that, intrigued by the agrovoltaics scenario that you talk about. And I haven't heard many people talk about agrovoltaics the way you do. So maybe you could talk a little more about agrovoltaics so that our audience could catch up on what's going on in this space.
Sure, yeah. So let me actually just move the mic a little bit here, so it helps with the audio quality. But agrivoltaics, and it's with an I, not an O, agrivoltaics, just for the viewers to be able to find it. It's very important to understand one thing about the renewable energy industry, and specifically within the solar side, right? People who I think it's counterproductive to go and cut down a forest to then build a solar panel farm. It's just why it doesn't really make sense, right? And then people think about it from the long term. They're like, yeah, but the benefits and the carbon emission offsets that exist and things like that, I completely disagree with it. So I've always thought that there has to be a better way to do this, and I didn't come up with a theory of agrivoltaics, but it came to me. And I said, there has to be something like this that exists, right? There has to be a way for us to dual use land where we can combine agriculture and photovoltaics, which is solar. And so when I started doing some research, I realized that there are people out there who are doing something similar. And through research and contacting these people and partnerships with them and being able to work with local farming initiatives and organizations, we started building out our agrivoltaic side of things. And so now we do not build any solar farms that do not have a agrivoltaic or an agricultural element to it, because the agriculture is extremely important, and it doesn't make sense for us to go and build a solar farm and kill essentially the arable land underneath it. And so I built this strategy within the Doomsday community, and really focused on pushing that narrative. And this is something that no other, at least from what I understand and what I see. No other fund or syndicator or organization is really going after. I've seen a few people who are involved in the solar space. Very few, out of every 100, you might find one or two, but there's not really anybody who is as advanced as we are with our thinking, with our tech stack, with our strategy, and how we're kind of moving things forward. So when it comes to that, we are in a very unique spot. And so that's really what agrivoltaics is. Sometimes we grow hemp underneath our solar, which we then burn to then produce graphene, synthetic graphene, in order for us to then use that, or we sell it to battery manufacturers, or we use it in different applications. We can also take the hemp and then go and make concrete out of it. There's many different things that we can do. You can grow wheat underneath the panels. You can grow crops that are like leafy vegetables, earthy vegetables. You can graze cattle underneath them. There are so many different applications that you can do. It's not just a crop on one side. One of my favorites, and actually the one that I love the most, is what we call Project Honeycomb, and which is the placement of apiaries all over the farm that help with both the crop production, because the bees are now local on the actual farm, which improve the yield of the farm, and it also improves the yield of the agricultural side of the farm, but also improves the yield on the apiary side, and the bees, and what the bees produce with the honey and the wax and pollen and everything that kind of comes out of their side of things. And we've made a partnership with a company called Flowhive, that is a very innovative product, and I love it. And when the first time that I've seen it, it was just something out of this world. So they're an Australian organization that it's a very seamless way and non-invasive way to harvest honey, where you can just turn a tap basically, and the honey comes out instead of having to open the hive and take out the honeycombs and then take the honey and process it. And it's a much better and much more effective way to do it. So, that for me is my favorite part of the whole thing.
Well, there's a lot to unpack right there, Nisar. I think I heard a lot of very innovative ideas in just one minute. So let me just go through them one by one. Which the first thing that caught my attention was, did you say graphene from hemp?
That's right.
Okay. So you burn graphene, sorry, you burn hemp, and then the output is graphene, or part of it is it graphene? Could you
Part
speak
of
to
it.
that?
Yeah, so part of the waste material, which is funny, we call it waste material, right? But
Hmm.
part of the waste material that comes out of burning hemp is actually graphene. And so there's a specific way to do it, and we have to have a certain chemicals composition, but the goal is to be able to get that graphene so that we can either use it ourselves in our solar panels, because some of our technology, and we can talk about this later, but we are in the middle of building a solar panel manufacturing facility right now in Miami. We're investing about 100 million into it. And we need that graphene in order for us to lay a thin film of layer of graphene on top of our solar modules, which improves our efficiency on the production of power for the solar panel by 30%.
Hmm.
So it's an extremely, extremely beneficial material, because graphene in and of itself is a material that absorbs an immense amount of light. And one of the problems that we have with solar panels is that our efficiencies to absorb light are low compared to what can be done. So, on average in the industry, the modules or the solar panels that currently exist are able to take in fully and convert to power about 25% of the power of the solar that hits the panel. So there's still 75% that remains uncaptured. When you add graphene, it improves the capture rate there by about 25 to 30%.
So with a graphene, so you are instead of doing sourcing graphene commercially, is the plan to use your own sources? And so are you then how easy is it to create graphene from burning hemp? Is that so? Are you getting into a lot of the vertical and horizontal integration here? Is that the
That's right.
plan?
That's right. Yeah. So that's the goal for us is to be able to control the supply chain as much as possible because that is really going to be a deciding factor on the success of the organizations that are in our industry. If you can control the supply, that will help you dramatically with being able to produce product and not be slaughtered when it comes to pricing and when it comes to lead times and being able to provide that product to the current demand that is massive in the industry right now for US made product. And that is an extremely important thing to kind of go over, where the US has incentivized like unbelievably the use of domestic content in their renewable energy efficiency, even on different areas. But they're trying to push for renewable energy manufacturing and battery technology and things like that with the energy efficiency side and energy storage. So they want to focus on becoming an independent energy grid. And I completely agree with this. And this is something that I've been talking about for years. That we need to become independent of Russia, of China, of all of these other countries. So control over our supply on the micro level for us is important, but also on the macro level is extremely crucial.
Mhm. A very good, conversation here. I just want to touch upon. I'm not that, not that I'm done with the graphene conversation, but I need to jump on to the next item here, which is, if a solar farm is now built on a farm, a working farm, the landowners also keep the ag exemptions, right? Is that another benefit of it as well?
Yes. So they keep the ag exemptions on the taxes as well as some other incentives that qualify them for things. The USDA even provides funding, and the SBA and a few other government organizations provide funding for farms or farmers essentially to add solar onto their current existing plots of land to improve their production capacities and reduce their expenses by eliminating their electric costs and many different things. So you can get, grants, loans, a few other things also to help you with the financing of those kinds of projects.
My name is Andrew Glisson. Over the past 4 years, I've built a portfolio of over 200 single-family rental properties that generate over $200,000 a month in income. I've put together a 6-step formula to help you consistently acquire rental properties that cash flow $250 or more a month and have $30,000 or more of equity built into them. This includes starting right, becoming bankable, buying right, renovating right, exit strategies, property management, and many more modules. Best of all, if you're not totally blown away by the content, we offer a 30-day, no questions asked, money-back guarantee. If you're ready to build generational wealth for you and your family, look me up at sfruniversity.com.
Hey, Lily says AT&T's giving everyone their best deals.
Minus the air quotes.
Best deals.
No need to wink. Others say they give everyone a deal, but not everyone gets the best deal.
Told you, the best deals are for everyone here, with a choice of plans.
You were right.
Is she always right?
Always.
At AT&T, we give everyone our best deals on every smartphone.
Hola, soy Isabela Gómez ayudando a Smokey Bear porque él tiene mucho más que decir que solo...
Solo tú puedes prevenir incendios forestales.
Si estás afuera disfrutando de una barbacoa después de una larga caminata, asegúrate de no tirar tus brasas o cenizas calientes al suelo, porque podría provocar un incendio forestal. Toma en serio la prevención de incendios forestales y salvemos el mundo un día a la vez. Juntos con Smokey Bear podemos hacerlo. Ve a smokeybear.com para obtener más información.
Todos quieren boletos de avión baratos, pero ¿dónde los encuentras? Llamando a Vuelos y Más. Sus precios vienen directamente de las aerolíneas y son tan bajos que no los vas a encontrar publicados en ningún otro sitio. Nos especializamos en garantizarles los boletos de avión más baratos, con descuentos en habitaciones de hotel, alquiler de carros y grandes ofertas en paquetes para cualquier lugar del mundo. No importa su destino, podemos ayudarle.
Gracias, Vuelos y Más.
¿Qué espera? ¡Llame ya!
So now that we talked about agrivoltaics, let's look at another sector where you talk about net zero real estate.
Sure, yeah. So that's actually a very big point of interest for a lot of people that I speak with. And there's so many of my peers and individuals that I've met throughout my life that are in the real estate field that are curious to see how this can affect what they are currently doing. And every time I tell them, they are mind blown because there's nothing like this right now that could help with the current situation as well as future plans for how things are going to go for them. Now, the net zero real estate world is a very simple concept. I want to make sure that my property is not a negative property to the environment, right? And what that means is we need to get the carbon footprint of that property to zero. That helps with becoming carbon neutral. Once I'm carbon neutral, my property is not producing more carbon than it is offsetting, then I am good. So that's the goal to get there. Now, how do you do that? And the majority of the time, for the built environment, an existing environment, meaning all the buildings that currently are in existence, not the ones that are coming out, we can do this by energy efficiency, number one, and then by offsetting the remainder of that energy consumption using renewable energy sources that are local to that location, to that property, by building microgrids within that property. So energy efficiency is extremely important. You want to reduce the amount of energy that you are consuming as much as possible, and then offsetting the remainder using the renewable energy side of things. And what that does effectively is it improves the NOI of real estate. And anybody who's in the real estate world knows that NOI is the most important metric for an operator to be able to make sure that their property is performing healthily, and that they're able to take a look at, okay, what amount of NOI do I have in order for me to be able to take on more debt, because the real estate industry's debt market is what really keeps things going. And with the current debt market situation, with interest rates being so high, with the situation of how people don't want to lend as much anymore, it's becoming very difficult for operators on the real estate side to be able to even get any type of financing. And then after that type of financing, to get improvement financing, because that's another world all in of itself. And then to be able to increase NOI in such a drastic and quick way, there isn't anything that you can do right now in the real estate world that does it the same way as the renewable energy and energy efficiency side. You can improve your NOI by $1 million with a renewable energy and energy efficiency project within 3 to 6 months. And the funding and the financing for these kinds of projects exist at 100% LTC from organizations all over the country. You can get the entire cost of the project without putting in any capex. Go build put in new HVAC, put in new roof, put in new energy efficiency windows and doors, insulation, solar, battery storage, so many things that you can do at 100% LTC, where you don't have to take out any other cash or cash infusion. Finance the entire thing, eliminate your electric costs completely, take all that back into your NOI, and now that improved your building value dramatically. And so on average, for every $100,000 that you save on power costs or energy costs, you are increasing the value of your property by 1.5 million. And that costs around $500,000 to do. So when it comes to a net value there, you're making $1.5 million of value by paying $500,000 in capex through a loan, not and it's not a cash infusion essentially. So you're completely financed. You're making $1.5 million in value, and that's just if you saved $100,000. If you saved $1 million in property cost, in energy cost, that's $15 million in value. So that's scalable up and down as you go along. And so that's what we focus on when we work with our net zero side of things. We target specific properties that we want to go after, and things that we've done in the past. And so that's really our goal there. And so there's a lot of value add there to be made. And it's an extremely unique value add strategy that not really many people are doing. You see your multifamily guys and your hospitality guys and your office guys going in, buying core, improving the value a little bit by either increasing rents or doing some sort of, new improvement to the building that takes some time before you can even get there. Maybe sometimes takes 12, 24 months. So that's kind of the way that we do it. And it's a much faster way to do it, much more effective. And banks like it.
Mm-hmm. And by the way, so just to go a little deeper into that, in terms of the space requirement we have one of the assets has about 24 acres, and it's about 446 unit apartment on 24 acres. So how much land do you really need to do these microgrids?
Yeah. So on average, for every unit in a real estate, let's say multifamily side, right? For every unit that you are going to be working on, you need about 8 to 10 kilowatts worth of solar, right? And so when you look at those numbers, let's just say for round numbers sake, 10 kilowatts, right? So we have 10 kilowatts times 432, so that's 4,320 kilowatts. That's 4 megawatts, 4.3 megawatts. 4.3 megawatts will fit on about 10 acres. So when it comes to the space requirements that you need, you can easily fit that within the current lands that you have availability. And sometimes what we do is we implement certain things like carport structures, where we build a structure on top of the parking areas that then we can make the roof of that solar. That helps with not having to go and build on top of the existing roof, for example, if we don't want to penetrate the roof. Some people prefer not to do that. So, okay, we go with the carport. It's a little bit more expensive, but long term, it makes more utility for the client or for the tenant because they now have shaded parking. And then we can add a element of EV charging there as well. And so we combine those things to help with improving the quality and the lifestyle for the people that are living in those communities. So there's so many things that we can deploy there to improve the situation.
And to go a little further down that path, are there options to have a solar farm? Maybe not on the property, for some other properties where we don't have that much acreage. Is that an option to have a solar farm elsewhere and offset the energy by plowing that back into the grid? Are those options?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes, so those are definitely options. As long as you guys are connected to the same grid, it is possible for us to go take another piece of land somewhere else, build a solar farm there, and then offset that using what's called net metering. And you just have to make sure that your utility essentially accepts that it works. On the state side of things, there are certain nuances there that you have to verify, make sure it's good to go.
My name is Andrew Glisson. Over the past 4 years, I've built a portfolio of over 200 single-family rental properties that generate over $200,000 a month in income. I've put together a 6-step formula to help you consistently acquire rental properties that cash flow $250 or more a month and have $30,000 or more of equity built into them. This includes starting right, becoming bankable, buying right, renovating right, exit strategies, property management, and many more modules. Best of all, if you're not totally blown away by the content, we offer a 30-day, no questions asked, money-back guarantee. If you're ready to build generational wealth for you and your family, look me up at sfruniversity.com.
Hey, Lily says AT&T's giving everyone their best deals.
Minus the air quotes.
Best deals.
No need to wink. Others say they give everyone a deal, but not everyone gets the best deal.
Told you, the best deals are for everyone here, with a choice of plans.
You were right.
Is she always right?
Always.
At AT&T, we give everyone our best deals on every smartphone.
Hola, soy Isabela Gómez ayudando a Smokey Bear porque él tiene mucho más que decir que solo...
Solo tú puedes prevenir incendios forestales.
Si estás afuera disfrutando de una barbacoa después de una larga caminata, asegúrate de no tirar tus brasas o cenizas calientes al suelo, porque podría provocar un incendio forestal. Toma en serio la prevención de incendios forestales y salvemos el mundo un día a la vez. Juntos con Smokey Bear podemos hacerlo. Ve a smokeybear.com para obtener más información.
Todos quieren boletos de avión baratos, pero ¿dónde los encuentras? Llamando a Vuelos y Más. Sus precios vienen directamente de las aerolíneas y son tan bajos que no los vas a encontrar publicados en ningún otro sitio. Nos especializamos en garantizarles los boletos de avión más baratos, con descuentos en habitaciones de hotel, alquiler de carros y grandes ofertas en paquetes para cualquier lugar del mundo. No importa su destino, podemos ayudarle.
Gracias, Vuelos y Más.
¿Qué espera? ¡Llame ya!
And this and then going back to this 10 acres, does it have to be one all that in one place, or can it be like spread out over 10 1 acre within the property?
That's right. It can be distributed. There's no reason for it to be specifically in one location.
Okay, I think that makes a lot of difference because we do have 24 acres and, we just a lot of space. And if it is located to each block of the apartment, maybe there are ways to slice and dice this. And I'm hoping that more, our subscribers who are listening to this start to implement this in their apartments as well. And we'll definitely need to have follow-up conversations with you and your team on the net zero real estate because I think this
yeah, we've been working recently and there's been a surge of interest from REITs and large funds convert their portfolios into renewable energy and specifically net zero, right? I even had this one REIT the other day tell me they have like 16,000 units, and they said that they wanted to talk to me because the situation right now is most people are getting out of the real estate game and going somewhere else. They're looking for alternative investments. They're trying to do something different. And one of their biggest LPs told them, it doesn't make sense for me to give you my money anymore. And they said, why? What's going on? We've been giving you 25 to 30% IRRs for the past 10 years. Like, we've been doing good for you guys. Like, who's doing that, right? And then they were like, yeah, well, we're making so much money on the solar side right now that it would be dumb of us to come and give you money to make half of what we're making there. It's just not a no-brainer. And so he came to me and he was just like the CEO and the founder of the organization came to me and he was just like, we need to do something together. We need to partner up. We need to either do a JV or a fund of funds model where we just deploy our capital into what you guys are doing. And they were looking at, easily about 100 million that they wanted to kind of put together. So that's just the kind of stuff that is happening. and and that's just from one side of the market. But we're seeing a massive influx of interest from the real estate side into the renewable energy and energy efficiency side on our end. And so for us, it's been an amazing, past 2 years essentially.
When it comes to net zero, could you speak to some of the government incentives in ESG related to net zero? What other
Oh yes.
tax benefits or other benefits can these
these are going to be amazing for your viewers, for you, and just everybody to understand. And this is important because this all started last year, August, and I've been since the legislation came out. I've been following it very closely for the past 2.5 years. But since the legislation was signed in 2022 August, I have been screaming at the top of my lungs to everybody who would listen, hey, pay attention. There's something here that you can use. You're leaving a lot of money on the table. And people have been listening, and they've been coming to me and talking to me. And I've been working on Twitter, which is X now, a lot to talk about this. And I've done threads, and I've done podcasts, and I've done so many different things just to kind of help people realize what's going on and come out of the stealth mode that I used to be in. And so right now, the government improved the incentives almost threefold, 3.5 in certain areas, from what is in existence in 2022 to what is in existence in 2023. And a small example of that is that the investment tax credit, which is a tax credit unique to the renewable energy world and a few other areas, which is called Section 48, Section 48C, and Section 48X, Section 45X, and a few other areas. But specifically, Section 48, they improved the tax credit from 22% to up to 70%. So you can get today a 70% tax credit on any investment that you make into a solar farm that meets certain criteria. And so if we go and build a solar farm for $1 million, they're giving us back $700,000 in a tax credit. That's unbelievable. That's unheard of. There are no programs, no countries in the world that I know that are doing something similar. Imagine you go build a piece of real estate. You can go build a multifamily building, and they're going to give you 70% of your costs back. Everybody would be running to go and build a multifamily right now. You know what I mean? And so when it comes to how we do things, we have a very unique strategy of, financing. We use creative financing structures to go and build these farms, where we do take on equity. We take certain amounts of equity, grants, certain types of construction financing, and then we take those tax credits and we monetize them. And what does that mean? It means if you don't benefit from those tax credits, because let's say you don't have a tax liability, it's a new entity, it's an SPV, it's something, right? You can take that tax credit and go and sell it to an organization that has a tax liability for 90% of the value. Let's say you're buying it at, you have $1 million tax credit, you sell it to them for $900,000 instead of the full $1 million. And so they saved $100,000 on their taxes, which otherwise they would have had to pay, right? So it's a beneficial thing for them. It's a beneficial thing for us. Now we have the cash. We can use that to go and finance and build the project. So that's kind of how, we work on things. But that's one incentive. There's another incentive called Section 179D, which is essentially a $5 per square foot deduction. And then there's Section 45L, which is a $5,000 per unit tax credit, not deduction. So it's even better. So you said you had a project that's 432 units. Just that project alone, from just this tax credit, is $5,000 per unit. That means multiply that by 432. That's about $25 million in tax credits that you just didn't know existed. Where we can help you now go monetize that, take 22 million out of the 20 something, take 22 million out of it, and then now you have all that cash on hand to go and do whatever it is that you need to do with.
All right. I've opened up my calculator and doing those numbers right there on the side. I mean, this is very, very, very interesting
Yeah.
conversation, Nisar, and I'm wondering why, more people are not tapping into, all this, especially on the real estate side, especially
Yeah.
when the market dynamics is turning in this.
I'm starting to see the shift. I'm starting to see the shift. Ask me this question a year ago, it would not have been the same answer, but I'm starting to see it now. And, it's becoming more and more apparent from just the people who are contacting me, other people in the field, things like that. It's just now starting to show up, but there's so much space available. Like the ability for people to come and do this, it's an open market right now for you, and you have so much potential that you're leaving on, and so much meat on the bone, basically. People like me, we go and we're like, hey, you want to sell your piece of real estate? And they're like, yeah, please take it off my hands. I don't know what to do. The bank's going to come and take it. And we're like, all right, we'll take it off you. And then we go and we add all this value, and then we're able to flip it. Or sometimes we just hold it, right? And so we hold it and we make the money off of the cash flows, and we're happy. So we have a much better situation on our hands to be able to do this, basically. So that's just the approach that we're taking. I'm teaching people. I'm building a community of individuals that are like-minded, and if they're interested in being part of what we're doing, I'm fully ready to give them keys to the kingdom, so that they can do that. I'm all about building partners, right? And that's one of the reasons why, again, going back to the beginning of the show where we said it's Doomsday Partners. We're here to make more partners. We're here to help other people. We are your partners. And so I don't have this scarcity mentality that I'm like, no, I don't want to tell anybody about this. I want to keep this to myself, and I want to make all the money. There is no way that I can corner or capture a majority share of this market on my own. It's just not going to happen. Even if I had billions of dollars, I still will not be able to do that. This billions of dollars is a drop in the ocean when it compares to the size and the total addressable market that we have right now. It's a $7 trillion industry when you're talking about electrifying the grid. And that's not even considering the real estate side. That's just considering the distribution and transmission side of things. So when you're talking about the real estate side where you can do that, imagine combining both of those. It's a massive industry.
Mm-hmm.
That's another 12 trillion there.
Mm-hmm. And another piece of the conversation is carbon credits. How do carbon credits figure into this whole thing? Let's say net zero real estate does that. Is there any carbon credits available there?
Of course, and that's another way that we have or another revenue line that we have in our stack, where we also use that to improve our revenue side of things. However, carbon credits at this point in time are an extremely unregulated market. And so it is difficult for us to be able to provide not, guarantees, but to be sure and reliant on that kind of revenue, right? So for us, it's just a miscellaneous added value or an added revenue on our books, but we don't depend on it in our builds. So we do look at it as something good, and I think within the next few years there's going to be a lot of regulation within the industry for that. But it's going to take some time to get there. They might combine some sort of Web3 protocols with that to improve it using blockchain to verify, because there's been a lot of fraud and a lot of scams in the carbon credits market where people would triple and quadruple sell credits that they have sold to somebody else, and a lot of greenwashing happens there too. Organizations buy credits and they're like, yeah, we are sustainable. And the reality is that they're not, and their practices are still not sustainable. Just because you bought some carbon credits doesn't make you green and sustainable. So massive organizations do things like this all the time. I'm not going to name names so that I don't get a cease and desist letter.
But, right. Yeah. And greenwashing is a whole conversation by itself. And so there's so much going on there. So interesting. So now let's talk a little bit about some of the projects you have executed in this space so far.
Yeah. So on the net zero side, we've done things on the multifamily side. We've done things on cold storage, which is one of my favorites. I love cold storage. And it also feeds into what we do on the agricultural side, because obviously we need cold storage for that. Manufacturing facilities, converting them, doing all that stuff. That is all within the net zero world. Hospitality, we've done hotels, office buildings, all I've done almost every single type of real estate on purpose so that I can build a case study for every single one of them, and use that in order to show the results, right? So we've done that. And then on the agrivoltaic side, we've done countless projects, hundreds of megawatts worth over the world. And we've done projects in the States, we've done projects in the Middle East, we've done projects in Southeast Asia. We've kind of built all of that in different areas. And I'm originally from the Middle East. I did a podcast recently where we talked about how I'm a rebel because of the fact that I am going against the grain when it comes to the energy market, where the majority of my family and everybody else is in the oil side of things and diesel and fossil fuel. And then I'm here, pushing and taking money from the Middle East and going and deploying this all over the world for the renewable energy side, right? So it was a very interesting conversation with those guys. But the goal for me is to continue to deploy that kind of mentality and to help with building solar even in the Middle East, right? They are actually one of the best locations to do that in. Right. So there's so much desert available there that we can use and, take that energy and start harnessing the sun. So that's the direction that we're going to be taking, and we're still pushing for that to be done. We have a lot of LPs that come from the Middle East, so it just makes sense for us. Mm-hmm.
My name is Andrew Glisson. Over the past 4 years, I've built a portfolio of over 200 single-family rental properties that generate over $200,000 a month in income. I've put together a 6-step formula to help you consistently acquire rental properties that cash flow $250 or more a month and have $30,000 or more of equity built into them. This includes starting right, becoming bankable, buying right, renovating right, exit strategies, property management, and many more modules. Best of all, if you're not totally blown away by the content, we offer a 30-day, no questions asked, money-back guarantee. If you're ready to build generational wealth for you and your family, look me up at sfruniversity.com.
Hey, Lily says AT&T's giving everyone their best deals.
Minus the air quotes.
Best deals.
No need to wink. Others say they give everyone a deal, but not everyone gets the best deal.
Told you, the best deals are for everyone here, with a choice of plans.
You were right.
Is she always right?
Always.
At AT&T, we give everyone our best deals on every smartphone.
Hola, soy Isabela Gómez ayudando a Smokey Bear porque él tiene mucho más que decir que solo...
Solo tú puedes prevenir incendios forestales.
Si estás afuera disfrutando de una barbacoa después de una larga caminata, asegúrate de no tirar tus brasas o cenizas calientes al suelo, porque podría provocar un incendio forestal. Toma en serio la prevención de incendios forestales y salvemos el mundo un día a la vez. Juntos con Smokey Bear podemos hacerlo. Ve a smokeybear.com para obtener más información.
Todos quieren boletos de avión baratos, pero ¿dónde los encuentras? Llamando a Vuelos y Más. Sus precios vienen directamente de las aerolíneas y son tan bajos que no los vas a encontrar publicados en ningún otro sitio. Nos especializamos en garantizarles los boletos de avión más baratos, con descuentos en habitaciones de hotel, alquiler de carros y grandes ofertas en paquetes para cualquier lugar del mundo. No importa su destino, podemos ayudarle.
Gracias, Vuelos y Más.
¿Qué espera? ¡Llame ya!
Nizar, in these projects you mentioned, are you doing more of a consultative role where you are advising these firms on doing these projects, or are these projects that you or your group owns and operates? How does this how's the model?
Yeah, so we've done things in the past where we were consulting and developing, and then we would just offload that to another organization in the past, and that was the majority of the projects that we did. However, now for the past few years, we have become the operators and the owners and the financiers of the projects. And so after I started one of my firms, it just made more sense for us to now operate them because the revenue metrics were just so great. So we said, no, why are we giving all this money away? Let's just build it ourselves and operate it and keep it here, and we cash flow it, and then we'll get the people that we built these for in the past. We went back to them and we said, hey, would you like to invest into our projects? And so that's kind of how that built up.
So in terms of, so if you were to do a project on your own, how long would one project take? Let's say just take
Depends
a
on
random
size.
five megawatt water or something.
Yeah. So it depends on size, right? And it depends on the interconnection queue and the authority having jurisdiction or the permitting area department in that area, because that is the most tedious part and the most time-consuming part in the entire process. Reality is a 1 megawatt or even a 5 megawatt can be built within 3 months.
Okay.
That's it. But the hard part is getting the approvals, going through the permitting, doing the engineering, getting the interconnections set up and ready. Moving all of that stuff along is what is taking the longest time. But we operate, so you understand our model, right? We operate in an area that is very niche, and we found this pocket that we can build things in a much faster way, because the average in the industry is it's about 2 to 3 years for you to build a solar farm. But we found an area where we can build in such a fast way and push the project through so that we can get it done and out of the gate basically, and starting to produce power and selling that power within a much faster time period, usually between 8 and 12 months. And so that's something that is, within not a proprietary, but like more of a built-in strategy that we use ourselves.
Mm-hmm. And when it comes to, so I think you're now starting to touch upon a little bit of the regulatory side of things, and states that are friendly towards solar. So what are some of the states that are taking a more friendly approach to these solar projects, if you don't mind?
Yeah. So we see a very big difference when it comes to I guess friendliness and acceptance of renewable energy in the different camps. Democratic states have always been a lot more friendly to this industry than the Republican states, and so the majority of what we are building are within those areas. So a lot of the Northeast, Puerto Rico, Hawaii, certain areas that are more interested in trying to defossilize and decarbonize. And so that's really where we are building the most in. We used to focus on Texas a lot, but recently state legislation has really put a halt on a lot of projects in Texas. And so we kind of pulled out of there and we just doubled down on the Northeast for us. And the returns and the revenue models in the Northeast are much better, in my opinion, anyway. Texas is just, cheap land, easy for us to go and build there. We have a lot of connections there, things like that. It's deregulated grid even, because Texas has its own grid, which is one of the only, it is the only state in the entire country that has its own grid. And so our goal was to go there and try and help with their grid situation because of, certain crazy things that happened, past couple of years with their, what they call the snowpocalypse. But then, the legislators in Texas and the Senate, they passed a bill that essentially put a lot of red tape around solar farms and any kind of new projects that are coming in. And so we said, hold off. let's just keep focusing on the Northeast, and that's really where we're building now.
So these projects, that you executed, are they on your website? Where can I find that information about?
Yeah, so
these
they will be
projects?
listed on our website. We just posted our new website actually, doomsdaypartners.com. And it's that's the asset management firm basically. And we're gonna showcase a lot of the different projects. We currently have a data room for whoever's interested, for example, to take a look at what those look like. I'd be happy to share that with you so you can kind of, observe and see what that is. But yeah, that's the current situation. We should be post a lot of it, not all of it. We do have certain NDAs that we have to take into consideration, making sure that we have security on our projects as well, because that's one thing that we are very vigilant on that nobody really does within our industry is we are big on security. And one of the most important things in a energy grid is to protect yourself from any kind of exterior and interior attack. And one of the most devastating is an EMP style attack on your facility. And so our facilities are what's called EMP hardened, and we focus on using Faraday cages and a few other things to make sure that we are not capable or others are not capable of taking our power plants down if they ever were to attack the U.S. grid. And I'm very, very, very adamant about protecting our U.S. Energy grid that way, because one of the easiest ways to take down the grid right now is through EMP attacks. And not only that, our grid actually has a very low score when it comes to security, when it comes to redundancy, when it comes to all this kind of stuff. Other countries are beating us there, and that's not okay with me. So I'm trying to push the agenda here to change and to actually make our grids a lot more secure and to focus on protecting ourselves from any kind of attack, external or internal. So.
Anissa, could you speak a little about the EMP attack? What does EMP mean? And let's, educate us, please.
Yeah, so an EMP is basically an electromagnetic pulse. And what that does, if it's strong enough in a specific area, it will completely short circuit any of the electronics and equipment that are within that area. And specifically what that does is it fries, if let's say you have an EMP attack on a substation, it will completely fry and destroy any circuitry and electrical elements to that substation, which shuts it down. And by the time that substation can be brought up is months. So it's a very dangerous thing to have. And so if your critical components are not protected, and if you don't have redundancies in place where if something gets shut down, another one comes up, then we have a big problem, So that's kind of the not the scare, and I'm not trying to scare anybody, but it's a serious security threat,
Mm-hmm. But in the current environment, are you facing situations where I see the concern from the security concern from a national grid standpoint.
Yeah.
For standalone solar stations, are we seeing isolated attacks, and if so, by who?
We have seen isolated attacks, and without naming group names, we've seen things in the past elections and after the elections where people are trying to destabilize the country, and they attack the electric grids, and they can just walk into any substation and then cut the power, and then that power is out for weeks on end sometimes. And it's the type of anarchist mentality that comes into there and tries to cause problems and issues for people, and they're trying to protest certain things, and even people on our end of things, which I don't condone at all, and I condemn from the renewable energy side. They're trying to shut down fossil fuel power plants, and that's not the right way to go about it, you know what I mean? And so for me it's a very difficult thing to deal with, but at the same time, yes, I'm against fossil fuel power plants, but at the same time, I know that we can't just shut them down today. It takes some time to phase them out. And so we have to work together to get to that point. But, it's going to take time and effort and speaking to people across both lines and figuring it out. So.
So in terms of the security measures, are these more physical security measures that you're referring to here?
Physical security measures where we do have people on site, making sure that the areas are protected, security systems, drone systems, laser systems, even that will make sure that nobody crosses certain lines, things like that.
Oh, I see. So it's okay. So I get a sense of this is more from uh, internal sabotage,
Yes.
versus somebody getting online and taking down these.
Cybersecurity is also a very massive one, but that's a completely separate world.
Right, right. That's okay. So now I understand this better now. And in terms of solar, in terms of your view, and I think I'm many people I interact with think the same way that there is a need for a transition and a total move overnight from fossil to renewable is not very practical.
No, it's not.
So
It's
what?
not practical at all, and it's actually a dumb thing to for people to even try and do. They're like, yeah, defund fossil fuels today, and you have people that are sitting in the streets protesting and preventing people from going to work and doing all these things, and they don't seem to understand that you can't just shut off a valve and it's over. If that happens, the world as we know it stops. It takes time. It takes transition. It takes a very long-term plan in order for us to do that. You need to work with the guys on the fossil fuel side to help them do that transition for the good of humanity at the end of the day. And instead of starting wars, let's work together. Let's focus on, hey, why am I going to start a war with the fossil fuel industry? No, I don't want to do that. I want to work with them to help them focus, transition, replace their revenue models, replace their ability to make money. And then they will see the fact that, okay, we're making more money on the renewable energy side now. Let's do that instead of, no, we want to keep fighting you and they're cussing each other out on TV and it's just unnecessary, right? So it's definitely a problem there for people that think that this is doable. It's not doable, and any intelligent person who uses some logic and critical thinking will realize that we cannot do that.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I absolutely agree. I mean, it's good to start the transition plan and put some efforts behind it. And the best way to get a lot of folks invested and interested is by government incentives. And I think that is where those incentives you talked about would definitely move the needle in terms of adoption of
Exactly.
renewables. And I think that's been the model across the globe because it's not something that individuals or corporations can do by themselves without some form of help or incentives from the government side of things. So that's
Yeah.
yeah. So how do you see this evolving, the overall solar market in the U.S. evolving?
It's expanding dramatically, and the CAGRs the other day that we were looking at for the industry was reviewed and revised after the Inflation Reduction Act came into place, and it was a massive number. It was like close to 20%, and that in terms of an industry like ours is huge. So when it comes to the growth, we're seeing massive growth, and that's one of the reasons why we're building our manufacturing facility in Florida right now, and we're starting with 1 gigawatt in capacity, and it's going to go up to 3 gigawatts within the next 5 years. No, within the next 3 years. So we're planning dramatic growth in the space to be able to feed the requirements from the renewable energy industry here. And so the demand is so big compared to the supply that's in the United States. And we are hearing every day other manufacturers that are looking at opening up facilities. And